The story begins at a school reunion event, where a group of friends from Class 6 reunites after not seeing each other for a decade. The main characters are Sari and Natalia. They discuss the usual topics at first, catching up on life and reminiscing about the past. One of their friends in the group observes that something is not quite right, noticing that some friends in the room seem unusually close and secretive. After the reunion event, one person in the group receives a mysterious anonymous letter full of hateful and threatening words. The letter presents a sinister game of hangman, giving them 9 days to solve it and pass it on to 29 others. If they fail, a terrible consequence awaits. In the morning, Sari was on his way to work when he had his purse snatched. He arrived late at the office and faced a scolding from his boss, adding to his tough start. To make matters worse, his coworkers were gossiping about him. Sari, usually composed and friendly, found himself at the center of attention and judgment. Sari returned to his desk, and a coworker approached him, concerned about his lateness. It seemed that in this workplace, this was the only person who still cared about him. Later on, the news on TV reported a mysterious death, a puzzle to everyone. Unbeknownst to Sari, it was his friend who had passed away. However, in the next scene, Sari received a phone call and he answered it nervously. The caller was Chewat, who sounded anxious and begged for Sari's help, mentioning something about a disc. Visited Chewat's place the next morning. He had acted strangely, as if fearing something. He revealed some information about the disc, but couldn't finish his sentence before the accident occurred. Sari then returned with the disc, and she and Natalia watched it together. They discovered details about the deaths of 20 classmates who hadn't attended the school reunion, leaving only the 7 attendees alive. Sari contacted the remaining friends, and they discussed the mysterious letter. Some believed it, while others didn't. One friend suggested following the letter, but others were wary. However, things took a dark turn when an accident occurred in the nearby shop. A saw blade flew into the head of one of their group members, sparking fear and suspicion. Meanwhile, as Sari was studying the information, the printer spontaneously produced a letter. This letter was a vengeful one, giving them 9 days to solve the puzzle and pass it on to 29 others, with dire consequences for failure. Sari called Natalia and told her about the letter. She rushed to Sari's house to look for something from their school days, which might hold a clue to the sender. Sari realized that they were the last recipients because people had died according to the numbers in the letter. Sari and Natalia decided to visit Pravit, who would be the next in line, to warn him about the letter. But Pravit, unimpressed, dismissed them, believing it wouldn't help. They left his place .in the same moment. Mr. Witt returned to work, and as his package conveyor malfunctioned, it entangled his legs and pulled him into the machinery, resulting in his immediate death. The scene cuts back to Sari's workplace, where Sari takes out an old yearbook from his elementary school days. One of his friend group approaches him, asking whom they think of when reminiscing about their school days. This leads to them remembering a friend known as Nerdy. The scene then transitions to their elementary school days, revealing a new friend, the 29th person who joined their group. Meanwhile, Nerdy had a strong penchant for playing the hangman game. One day, during their school days, a group of students was assigned extra homework by their teacher, which led to mutual annoyance and dislike among them. The teacher, who they humorously nicknamed Nerdy, became the target of teasing, and a mischievous student threw a tile at his head. Sari and her friend, Pravit, who was a part of the military, had a conversation about that day. They discussed who was responsible for throwing the tile at Nerdy, and recalled it was a classmate named Khan. Tragically, Khan later met a fatal accident involving a saw blade. As they reminisced about that incident, they started to suspect that something more sinister happened. In the sequence, when Nerdy was running around the classroom, Pravit seemed to have played a prank on him, which made him stumble and fall down the stairs, causing a severe head injury. The teacher walked in, inquiring about the incident, but no one dared to speak up. Strangely, after that day, Nerdy disappeared, never to be seen again. Pravit gradually realized that Nerdy was likely the name of their friend, who played the prank back in school, leading to a perplexing connection to the current mystery. Things took an even darker turn when Natalia called Sari with the grim news of friends who had tragically jumped off a building, leaving only 5 survivors. Sari and Pravit embarked on a journey to find the missing friend, but they encountered a horrifying accident along the way, leaving Pravit in a coma. Undeterred, Sari and Natalia drove to their old elementary school to investigate further. They stumbled upon their former homeroom teacher, Jet, who held vital information from their school days. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Pravit regained consciousness in the middle of the night and witnessed a chilling sight. He panicked and fled from his room, but a fatal fall awaited him, echoing the earlier incident when he played a prank on Nerdy. The next morning, Sari and Natalia paid a visit to Teacher Jet in another province. They sought to uncover Nerdy's full name, but the teacher could only remember the first name. She did, however, provide a lead by mentioning that Nerdy's uncle worked at Rangsit Hospital. Without delay, Sari rushed to Bangkok to continue her investigation. As the mystery unfolded, another friend named Prey found herself increasingly terrified as her turn to solve the puzzle approached. In desperation, she called her friend Jen to come and stay with her in her room for comfort. Jen suggested Prey take a relaxing bath to calm her nerves. Tragically, while Prey was in the shower, an electrical malfunction occurred, leading to a horrifying end as she was electrocuted and drowned in the bathroom. Sari and Natalia eventually arrived at Rangsit Hospital to locate Nerdy's uncle, only to discover he had passed away 2 months prior. Sari then recalled a story from their high school days when Nerdy had shared a problem-solving technique. He advised that, when in doubt, close your eyes and believe in the first thing you see. Following this cryptic advice, Sari embarked on a journey that led her to a room for psychiatric patients, where she encountered numerous corpses, each withholding the answers they sought. In their pursuit of answers, they finally met a nurse who recognized Nerdy and shared his tragic history. After the fateful accident, he had been treated at the hospital but could never reintegrate into normal life. The nurse disclosed the location within the hospital where Nerdy had been kept. The room was old, eerie, and filled with Nerdy's personal belongings, including books and photos that showcased the dramatic transformation in his appearance since their school years. Nerdy had a massive scar on his face, making him appear frightening. The flashback returned to the present day, revealing that Nerdy was still living in the same room at the hospital, leading a challenging life. His uncle had taken care of him, but Nerdy had to work hard to support his uncle in return. Despite the hardships, Nerdy utilized his business acumen to find work to support their livelihood. As a result of the hospital's debt crisis, Nerdy seemed to have taken on the burden of debt to assist the hospital. However, one day, Nerdy's health deteriorated, causing him to have a nosebleed. The blood from his nose dropped onto a piece of work. Observing this, Uncle and the shareholders interpreted it as a sign of Nerdy's dislike for the job and decided to relieve him from his position. They believed that the job had tremendous value and claimed compensation for the hospital's debts and the damage that Nerdy had caused. Feeling overwhelmed, Nerdy's uncle ultimately took his own life by shooting himself. This left Nerdy heartbroken, as he believed that he was living in this condition due to his elementary school friends. He wrote a curse-filled letter, blaming them for his situation. Returning to the present, Sari and Natalia were searching for Nerdy's last name. They stumbled upon a hangman game on the board. Sari solved the puzzle, which revealed the words P, 6/2. They interpreted it as a clue to go to the former elementary school. Sari instructed Natalia to call Jen to meet them in the P6 classroom. The scene shifted to Jen, who was rushing to the elementary school as per Natalia's instructions. However, she encountered supernatural phenomena along the way. The elevator she entered malfunctioned, rapidly moving up to the top floor and then descending abruptly, creating a chilling atmosphere. Back to Natalia and Sari. Both were en route to the elementary school when they were involved in a car accident. Nevertheless, they miraculously survived. Both of them struggled but finally reached the school. Upon entering the classroom, they discovered Nerdy's lifeless body. Nerdy had taken his own life by hanging in that very room. Looking at the board, they found a message that read, "The grudge lives on. The friendship endures." This message led Sari to remember Nerdy's last name. After uncovering the answer, Sari quickly wrote it down. However, the letter was written by Natalia, who decided not to write the letter, choosing to accept her own fate and spare anyone else from suffering. When morning came, Sari went to work as usual. Upon arriving at the office, His co-workers gathered around and confronted him. He heard his co-workers gossiping about him. While he appeared composed, he had a revelation that everyone, even those he thought were close. Sari realized that he was the one who had initiated the harassment, the nerdy. In the end, he decided to write it. Sari wrote another 29 letters and sent it to the other people, seeking to absolve his grudges and make amends.